the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
A NFL draft analyst predicts that the Chicago Bears will take a huge first-round gamble in the 2025 NFL Draft. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, it seems like the work is now done in free agency. Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, and the Chicago Bears organization were super busy upgrading the trenches in this free agency cycle, adding guys like Drew Dalman, Dayo Odeyingbo, Grady Jarrett, trading for Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. Now their sights are looking towards the NFL draft, which fans all over the world, when we're talking about Chicago Bears fans, are kind of debating on who they feel that the Chicago Bears will actually select in round one of the 2025 NFL draft. And we will have multiple conversations on right here on Keek on the Mic, just trying to pinpoint on who the Chicago Bears are actually targeting. I know there's a lot of people talking about tight end Tyler Warren, and I have talked about him. I've also talked about running back Ashton Jeanty, running back Amarion Hampton. A couple of different offensive linemen and defensive linemen as well. But now Mel Kiper is chiming in, the draft analyst for the National Football League, and he actually has an opinion on who he thinks the Chicago Bears are going to select in round one of the 2025 NFL draft. And he actually thinks the Chicago Bears take a big first round gamble on a prime defensive lineman out of Georgia, and that is Mykel Williams, the outside linebacker from Georgia. He had this to say, Bears fans: "I've gone offensive line for the Bears in both of my previous mock drafts, but that box was checked in free agency. Chicago traded for guards Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, then signed center Drew Dalman, and while the Bears also added Dayo Odeyingbo and Grady Jarrett on the defensive front, they could still use someone like Williams coming off the edge. They ranked in the middle of the pack last season in sacks at 40, but were 24th in pass rush win rate at 36.5%. Williams is a toolsy prospect who can beat blockers with his speed or power. He missed time with an ankle injury early last season, but still picked up 5 sacks. Given a little more time to develop, he could be really a solid NFL edge rusher." You know what, Bears fans? It's really interesting what Mel Kiper had to say in regard to Chicago Bears possibly being interested in Mykel Williams out of Georgia. And he's an interesting prospect. Once again, he did miss a little bit of time with the ankle injury last season. He did rack up 5 sacks in 2024. He stands at 6'5", 265 pounds. So it would make a lot of sense why the Bears could possibly be interested in a guy like Williams, because he definitely fits the mold on what Dennis Allen is looking for in terms of his edge rusher. Williams has a hot motor. He can beat you once again with speed and power, but he still has to learn how to develop a little bit more in terms of pass rush moves and different ways to get to the quarterback. And like I said, Mel Kiper in this situation is basically saying in his mock draft that Ashton Jeanty is going number 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. And obviously Tyler Warren, I believe he had them going to the New York Jets, I believe at pick number 7 or something like that. So that's why he felt like maybe Mykel Williams would be an interesting choice for the Chicago Bears. But it would be a huge gamble for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. Once again, this guy needs a little bit more time to develop. And I also think there's other maybe better candidates in terms of the Bears adding the edge rusher in round one of the 2025 NFL draft. In my personal opinion, unless you are trading down, adding draft capital, and then taking Williams, that's the only time that this move would make sense. I personally wouldn't take Williams at number 10 overall in the 2025 NFL draft, but I would be okay if they traded down to get this kid out of Georgia. Personally, if the Chicago Bears are looking at an edge rusher, a guy that can make instant impact, and I'm not sitting here saying that Mykel Williams can't make an instant impact, but I just think if it was up to me, if I was Ryan Poles, general manager of the Chicago Bears, there's 2 other guys that I would have ahead of Williams. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to trade down for these guys. You would probably have to stay put at number 10 overall in the 2025 NFL draft. But first and foremost, edge rusher Mike Green out of Marshall, 6'4", 248 pounds. In 2024, had 17 sacks, 32 hurries, and a 20.2% pass rush win rate. When you look at Mykal Williams, he only had 11.1% pass rush win rate. And then obviously James Pierce, edge rusher out of Tennessee, 6'5", 243 pounds. In 2024, he had 8 sacks, 43 hurries, and a 23% pass rush win rate. Once again, Williams from Georgia had an 11.1% pass rush win rate. Of course, you can make arguments for Williams as well. He played at Georgia in a much tougher conference compared to Mike Green out of Marshall. Even though Mike Green had an incredible year last year, a lot of people will question the competition that he was going against. And of course, James Pierce as well out of Tennessee. He's playing against pretty good competition. But I know there's a lot of people that would probably use that against Mike Green, saying that he did play at Marshall and Williams played at Georgia in a much tougher conference. But to me personally, Mike Green and James Pierce are just ahead of Mykal Williams. Once again, if the Bears were to opt to trade down, add some draft capital, and then still have Williams there, and he's the best player available, I think he could make a huge impact with the defensive line that we already have in Chicago with Montez Sweat, Dayo Dangbo, Grady Jarrett, right, Javon Dexter, Austin Booker. I think he would be an amazing fit with his really high motor, relentless effort type of play. But once again, he just needs a little bit more development until he can really make a huge impact in the National Football League. So, Bears fans, do you agree with Mel Kiper? Do you think the Chicago Bears should take that big gamble and select Mykal Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia? Let me know down below in the comment section. Before I let you guys go, I also wanted to bring up something to your guys' attention. Once again, it's another Bears insider on X. And I know a lot of you guys don't think he's an insider, but he definitely has his sources, and that is Ben Devine. He has been covering the Chicago Bears on X, on social media for a very long time. And he actually also gave his prediction on who he thinks the Chicago Bears will take with the number 10 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Just to make him more credible, last season he did the same thing, talked around to other NFL teams, talked to his sources within the Chicago Bears organization, and he predicted last year that the Chicago Bears were going to take Rome Odunze with the number 9 overall pick, and that's exactly what the Chicago Bears did. So this guy is pretty credible, right? He definitely has the sources, even if you guys don't want to believe him. I'm going to choose to believe him, and I just wanted to drop this nugget on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. But this is what he had to say on X, and this is going to be really, really interesting because it's the total opposite of what Mel Kiper thinks the Chicago Bears are going to do. He said this, Bears fans. He said the Chicago Bears are narrowing their focus at pick number 10, and although the draft is quite unpredictable, one thing is evident. They have identified one player as their top target, and that is running back Ashton Jeanty. He said Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson covet the Boise State All-American, and here's why. He said, one, best player available in a weak top 10, light on star power. Jeanty is no doubt top 3 player in this draft. Only Abdul Carter is a blue chippy player. You'll find such comparisons of LaDainian Tomlinson and Saquon Barkley, and they are valid. Number 2, need. There's only one starting position on the Bears that you slide in as the no doubt starter on day 1, running back. Really any other position at 10, and they're a backup at 25. Not adding a backup in free agency leaves a void. Swift is not the guy. That's what he said. And number 3, availability. It's surprising how few teams need a running back in the top 10. The Raiders are it. And talking to several Las Vegas team writers, all have said the Raiders do not take Jeanty. Too many holes elsewhere. Sliding to 10 is a higher percentage than Odunze to 9 last year. So, Bears fans, these are some very interesting nuggets from Ben Devine. And once again, you guys can choose to believe him or not. But I'm going to choose to maybe take his word for it. Once again, he has some incredible sources. He was 100% right on the Rome Odunze pick last year for the Chicago Bears. And once again, the NFL draft is very unpredictable. But he makes some really, really strong points. And I want to talk about need. The Chicago Bears definitely have a need at the running back position. Once again, I think before free agency, I think Ashton Jeanty was not a possibility. But then Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears went out and upgraded the trenches on both sides of the ball. I'm not saying they need to neglect the offensive defensive line. I'm just saying with the number one overall pick, it no longer has to be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. Once again, if offensive line and defensive lineman is, the best player available on their board, if they still want to take Will Campbell and he's at the top of their board, then take Will Campell. If Michael Williams or Mike Green or James Pierce is at the top of your board over Jeanty, then take one of those edge rushers, right? But I have a feeling that as the draft gets near, I think Jeanty and guys like Tyler Warren are slowly going to climb up the Bears draft board. I think they're going to fall in love with Ashton Jeanty. And once again, we all know that Ben Johnson wants to add to the running back position. Of course, we have DeAndre Swift, but when you look at DeAndre Swift last season, he had a decent year. Over 900 rushing yards. He only averaged 4 yards per carry. But I don't like to put that against him because the Chicago Bears offensive line was shuffling all year long. I think even with the improved offensive line, I think we can see a little jump from a guy like DeAndre Swift. But the Bears also ranked 25th in rushing yards per game. And obviously, when you look at Ben Johnson, that was one of the things that he was really successful at over with the Detroit Lions. Obviously, they have built a very strong offensive line in Detroit, and now the Chicago Bears seem like they have been doing the same thing this offseason, but that's not going to cut it. 25th in rushing yards last season is not going to cut it, and obviously, you add a guy like Ashton Jeanty and Ben Devine, and I know a lot of draft analysts feel like he could possibly be a blue chip prospect, a day one impact starter. You pair him with Caleb Williams, you pair him with DeAndre Swift behind this much improved offensive line we have here in Chicago, and he can be a day one impact player here in Chicago, talking about Ashton Jeanty. And then availability, right? We talk about the Las Vegas Raiders being in a prime spot to also draft Ashton Jeanty at number 6 overall. But once again, I've heard this before, and Ben Devine just proved it. He reached out to some Las Vegas writers, some other people around the league as well, and they say the Raiders have too many holes. They are not one player away like Ashton Jeanty to basically winning. And the Chicago Bears not in that situation either. I don't want you guys to take my words and run with them. I don't think the Chicago Bears are Ashton Jeanty away from being Super Bowl contenders as well. But I think the Chicago Bears are in a better spot to take Ashton Jeanty and add him to their football team compared to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Raiders have a whole lot of more holes than the Chicago Bears do. So I found that little point interesting because I know there's been a lot of Bears fans saying, well, he's not going to be there anyways, which could still be the case. But I think what Ben Devine points out is that I don't think the Raiders taking Ashton Jeanty is a home run like most Bears fans assume. So here's my thing. I think if Ashton Jeanty is there, it's going to be really tough for the Chicago Bears to pass on him. I think they just see too much value. And I know there's got to be a lot of questions about where he played at Boise State, but at the end of the day, I think he is a very, very good running back. I think he can definitely help the Chicago Bears. And just giving Caleb Williams yet another weapon. Once again, I am not saying the Chicago Bears should neglect offensive line, but we have to remember that even after round 1, the Bears have 2 second-round picks and a third-round pick. So the Chicago Bears would still be able to go defensive line or offensive line with those 2 second-round picks. And you have to remember, this is a very deep defensive line draft. So the Chicago Bears will still be able to find some quality players in round 2 or 3, especially as it pertains to the defensive line. So Bears fans, how do you guys feel about what Ben Devine had to say about who he thinks the Chicago Bears would take with the number 10 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft? Once again, he did this last year, and he was 100% correct, and he finally gave his opinion. He thinks the Chicago Bears are going to take running back Ashton Jeanty. So we'll have to see. As it gets closer, obviously there's going to be more rumors and news in regard to who people think the Bears will take with the number 10 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. At this point, I don't even want to give my prediction. I'll be fine with Ashton Jeanty. I would be fine with the offensive lineman. I'll be fine with the edge rusher. Whoever Ryan Poles feels like it can make a major impact on this football team, I am okay with it. So let me know who you want Ryan Poles and the Bears to take with the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. But other than that, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys. And as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.